Hello and welcome to the Future of Loyalty podcast with me, your host, Tom Peace. The Future of Loyalty are a series of informative and engaging podcasts with a laser focus on the emerging trends within the customer loyalty, engagement and CRM sector. I invite industry leaders and subject matter experts to discuss the future developments in customer strategy, and all our discussions are focused on where the industry is going next. Our discussions are fueled by a passion for new developments and innovations in the sector, and we aim for about 20 minutes, perfect for your coffee break, your lunchtime, or your journey home. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe at www.theloyaltypeople.global to get all our content direct to your inbox. Hello and welcome to another Future of Loyalty podcast. Today I'm joined by Tom Burrell, a leading expert in customer retention. Tom, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for the invite, Tom, to be on this. I'm delighted to
My
be here.
pleasure.
I've spent 25 years in retention. I've worked for brands like Dazn, where I was SVP of retention around customer value management, retention analytics, CRM technology, CRM strategy, retention strategy for the organization. Prior to that, I was at Manchester United, around CRM and marketing.
Sorry to hear that.
Yes. Lots of people say that, actually. It's funny. People are either delighted or disappointed. I also worked at TalkTalk for a while, where I ran the customer marketing function, and then prior to that, I spent 11 years in agencies as a retention strategist, digital agencies, and leader. And I was based out of the Middle East for a while, where I ran the strategy proposition, and I was also global CRM director for Dazn for 7 years, which is a really interesting, exciting time. So yeah, and then prior to that, I spent about 5 years in telcos as an analyst. So my background is very much data, and all of my career has been spent in retention.
Fantastic. Well, look, it's absolutely fantastic to have you on. I think that we obviously, we're the loyalty people and we talk a lot about loyalty, but retention is an absolutely massive part of the loyalty mix. So it's fantastic to have you on, and you've got such great agency and brand experience. And my first question, before we get into the proper questions, is so DAZN. So that's how you say it, is it? DAZN. That's
Yeah,
the sport subscription, mainly boxing, right?
yeah, exactly. A lot of people struggle with it. Dazn, we get
Yeah, exactly.
a lot
I
better.
was never sure, but yeah, DAZN. So anyone that's listening, that's how you say it. We've solved that one.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So tell us, these podcasts are always about the future of the industry. We're always looking at what's next, what's the latest trend, and what's next for the sector. So tell us, talk to us, educate us, what's next in the retention market?
So my offer is very much focused on subscription businesses, and core to subscription businesses is keeping existing customers. Effectively, keeping existing customers and retaining existing customers is what drives growth in subscription businesses, because it drives the number that you start each year with. And the issue is, if you don't meet your retention targets, or you don't meet your churn targets, then your costs can escalate if you want to still hit the same level of growth. And therefore, that can damage profitability if you still want to hit that same level of growth, or you miss your targets, you miss your growth targets, and obviously that doesn't make the board or your investors very happy, right? So when you really boil it down, in subscription businesses, retention is key to growth, because it's key to the number that you generate, that you start each year with. And so my business has been set up to specifically help subscription businesses. A lot of my career has spent consulting to subscription businesses and helping subscription businesses. And through that time, what I've really realized is that there's two key aspects to effective retention in subscription businesses. So firstly, it's about focusing on the right customers. So if you correctly conduct customer value analysis, and you understand that usually approximately 20–30% of your customers generate about 80% of your revenue. If you focus on that cohort, then you can protect your revenue number, right? So rather than, I think a lot of the rather than the trap that a lot of kind of CX teams fall into, which is trying to delight customers at every turn and deliver brilliant experiences for every single customer. Rather, you focus in on the needs on those most valuable customers, and you're very, very attentive to minor problems, and you service and support those high value customers in a way that makes them feel delighted and very well serviced by your organization. Then you're much more likely to retain
Yeah.
that cohort of customers. And then the
And
second, sorry.
oh, so I'm going to butt in slightly there and just to say, subscription is building in the loyalty industry, and I know what you're talking about subscription-based businesses that are entirely subscription-based, but
Yes, exactly.
subscriptions creeping into the loyalty industry. You look at brands like Pret a Manger. So they
Absolutely.
now have a very successful subscription base. Amazon Prime. I'm not going to list all the different brands that do it, but a lot of loyalty programs will have almost like a subscription tier within their overall loyalty program. It could be an air miles or a points-based scheme. It could be stamp card, but then they have this kind of VIP or subscription-based element to it. And the question, I guess, is how do they to build on what you were saying there? How do they make sure that that subscription base covers their best customers?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of subscription businesses, I think that there's three aspects that are really driving the effectiveness of those businesses. So one is customer needs. So subscription businesses make our lives easier, and the perfect examples of that are the streamers and the music providers.
Yeah,
The second reason why subscription businesses are growing so fast is the revenue that we generated that we talked about before. Like versus a transactional business, you start each year with a base of revenue, whereas in a transactional business, you're fighting for your income every single year. And so they're very attractive to VCs. And also the third aspect to why subscription businesses and why brands like Pret a Manger are taking them on is because the tech is so readily available and so easy to integrate now that it makes building a subscription offer really, really simple. In terms of like targeting subscriptions to specific customers, I think you'll know probably better than me, Tom, as a kind of a loyalty expert, that loyalty programs are most effective at reaching that middle cohort of customers. And the same applies to when you apply a subscription business model into a brand like Pret a Manger, for example, or historically into Prime, and we can talk about Prime later. But if you conduct your customer value analysis and you identify your highest value customers that are responsible for the vast majority of your revenue, and you'll identify the lowest value customers that are, a lot of them will only use you intermittently, and that's just a result of the fit between their customer profile and the service. And then the middle cohort are a cohort that have an opportunity for growth. And typically you'll find with a loyalty programs reward the high value customers, which you absolutely have to do, but they also are a great way of driving additional revenue from that middle growth cohort, because you provide
absolutely.
additional reason why you should use that brand over another. And that's exactly what Pret have done, right? Pret always had their regular customers who would kind of pass by the store and grab a coffee every morning. And you're not going to change that behavior for those regular customers, and providing a subscription actually just made it cheaper for them. But what the subscription service that Pret built has done is those people that sometimes went to Starbucks, sometimes went to Costa, who took a Pret subscription, are now always in Pret. And that's why you see
Yeah,
growth in revenue as a result of that subscription.
absolutely. And I think that's a really good example. And I think there's a couple of things going on there. There's a couple of things within people's psychology around the loyalty of that. First of all, if they've invested, so if you're a Pret shopper and you have paid your £30 per month, you're locked in. So you'll look up a Pret on your phone. If it means you have to walk past Costa and Starbucks to get there, you will do it because you feel like you've already paid for it, right? And
Absolutely.
the other thing about is exactly what you said just at the start there around the convenience element. So the subscription makes things easy, and people don't want to wait for their benefits anymore. Within a loyalty program, these programs, air miles, grocery, etc., where you spend with the brand for 12 months for it to finally be worth something. People don't want to wait anymore. They are willing to pay to get their benefits immediately, which falls perfectly into a subscription-based model.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, we prefer access over ownership, and And particularly the e-commerce space, subscriptions are really effective for things that you already always need, right? The huge success of Dollar Shave Club we've seen over the last few years, and Unilever ended up buying them for a huge amount of money. But there's loads and loads of examples. And I myself, personally, I have 4 e-commerce subscriptions for things that in our household we just regularly want, right? And it just makes our life easier. You don't have to think about those things when you go shopping, and it's the same applies to the prep model as well. I think it's a really interesting model.
Yeah, absolutely. So where's the retention going within your subscription based model? What's next? What are the brands doing? What's the future of retention look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we think about the future of retention, it relates back to what I was saying before. When you think about reaching the right customers, it's not always about just reaching the right customers. It's also reaching the right customers at the right moments. There is certain aspects of the experience that that a brand provides to its customers that matter more than other aspects. And there are key moments in the customer lifecycle, whether that be onboarding or whether, if it's a usage-based service like a streaming provider or music service provider where usage might drop, or in a cancellation journey, that are critical elements of the customer lifecycle, moments of truth, I call them. And what we're seeing in terms of the way in which retention is developing is how AI is going to be able to both impact understanding of customer value and how you act on that understanding of customer value at those moments of truth, because actually moments of truth can vary by sub cohort and by cohort and by even within value segments. So all high value customers are not all the same. They're not all motivated by the same things. Their behavior is not all the same, right? So I think the 3 aspects that we're going to see really impact this space are all AI related. So if we start with predictive AI, brands like Veyantis are making a play for automated customer lifetime value analysis. So a lot of brands wrongly calculate customer lifetime value based on the sum of historical spend. Actually, customer lifetime value is a forward-looking predictive metric that identifies the current value, revenue, margin of your existing customer base in the future. So the future value. And so to calculate that requires probabilistic models and requires data science. However, like brands like Voyantis, as I mentioned, allowing organizations to calculate customer lifetime value in real time. So if you're going to build a probabilistic model to apply back to your customer base to identify which value cohort they sit in, and you have to do that once a quarter, it's quite time intensive, right? Whereas if you can plug in a tool that does it in real time, then you can be responsive to that. So you could, in quarter 1, or if you say you only do this every year, at the start of the year, you might think customer A is actually a mid-value cohort, but by the time they get to Q3, they're very much a high-value cohort. But you can in real time, and then you can respond more appropriately. And so if you are adopting an approach which is not based on CX for everyone, but based on servicing and being extremely attentive to those highest value customers, it can be much more effective leveraging predictive AI to identify how those customers move. The other aspect of predictive AI, which I see is making a big impact in this, is understanding when customers reach moments of truth. So to understand moments of truth, it can be done by research, by customer research, but very often data is really, really powerful. So understanding the moments or interactions in a relationship that drive either long-term retention or churn. So we take like 2 examples. If you're in a free trial for a product or service, what's critical in that free trial phase is to get the customer to a result. So get them to get some value off the back of the product or service that you're providing, because then they're more likely to convert into a paid subscriber. Predictive AI can allow you to understand what you need to do to nudge customers to get the result that they seek and they value. And then take another example. So there may be particular types of service interactions that result in dissatisfaction, maybe amongst your highest value customers. And that dissatisfaction could then result in a higher propensity to churn. So predictive AI will allow you to understand that. And you can do it obviously now, right? Using data science and using models and using existing teams. And lots of large organizations have enterprise data science teams. The problem is that those teams often move too slowly because it takes time to build a model, right? So you build the model and you execute it, but then the market's changed, right? Because it's taking 3 months to build the model, get it signed off, everyone approves it. Whereas if you can use intelligent data solutions to understand how customers' value changes and how those moments of truth vary, that is extremely powerful. The other aspect to it is then being able to respond to those moments of truth creatively and using communications or using AI-driven chatbots. So we kind of move on to generative AI. And this is not going to be the same old story. You know, there's a lot of obviously change in the last couple of years, 18 months or so since the launch of ChatGPT, and people are starting to use lots of different tools for generative AI capabilities. A lot of MarTech now has got inbuilt generative AI, whether it's from ChatGPT or elsewhere. But we're absolutely seeing generative AI play an emerging role in marketing, although I think there's some work to be done. What we're going to be seeing in the next year or so is AI agents operating across the entire MarTech stack and managing entire workflows. So you'll get to a situation where if you're a CRM marketer, you'll be able to write a prompt, and that prompt will build an entire customer journey for you, right? So if you want to build an onboarding program, it'll build an entire onboarding journey for you, rather than where we operate now, which is you ask ChatGPT for some copy, you input it into your email, or an image, and you input it into your email. We're going to very quickly get to a situation where all of that technical work around constructing journeys and building out all of the detail of those journeys is going to become redundant, and a lot of the focus will shift towards prompt engineering, and the skills that will be required will be less technical within CRM marketing and move much more to focus on strategy. And you'll be judged by your ability to, your success will be determined by your ability to judge the outcomes of what the AI provides when it builds those prompt-driven journeys. And I think a great example of that is a brand called Subsets. They have a tool, they're a Danish startup. They have a tool which mines your customer data to identify audiences with a high propensity to churn, and then provides you with the communications to respond to that specific cohort's issue and reason that they're likely to churn with a button click, right? So this is like this is revolutionary stuff, and I think it's I personally don't see many CRM marketing teams being prepared for that change, and I think that combined with data, the predictive AI component plus generative AI, and CRM marketing example are used, but it's kind of going into many different areas. We can talk about chatbots in a minute, but that's going to fundamentally change in the way in which marketing is done and within the retention space. And I think it's very exciting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it is exciting, but there is a nervousness there. I mean, you talked there about how somebody will be able to just give a prompt into generative AI tool, and it will create an entire customer journey. And that may make people think, oh, but that's what I do all day. That's my job. So where do we go there? Is this actually more about the fact that because we can create multiple journeys for people, so any customer might be in several dynamic segments and have several more customer journeys aligned, and when they do something that triggers that journey, that get taken down that route. So actually, it's not necessarily about can we reduce workload, which is what everyone gets nervous about. It's actually more about how do we personalize and localize and create these journeys within this subscription-based scheme that are super targeted, right?
100%, 100%. That's exactly what it is. It's about increasing the sophistication of the function versus necessarily kind of removing the function entirely or anything like that, right? So,
but what it does mean, what I guess it does mean is that anybody in that field creating those CRM journeys, those retention journeys, they need to upskill, right? That you need to be on the front foot with this stuff because this is coming.
It's coming absolutely within the next year or so. I mean, if your background is very much in the technical side of CRM, obviously those skills are still going to be required to verify the output of the AI, but they're not going to be. There's not going to be as much time required on those tasks in the future. So if you are in that space, my advice is to really focus and double down on data and CRM retention marketing strategy. I think that's where you really need to focus. But what you say is absolutely spot on, right? We've had the ability in most MarTech tools to create microclusters of customers for many years, you know, for 20 years, probably 2 decades, but we always had
Yeah.
problems in executing against those microclusters.
Yeah.
That you can do it if you had a big inventory of content. You can set up automated workflows where you
Yeah.
drop an image from a retail brand into a communication, or you drop a
Well,
file from a
yeah, the grocers can do it, right? Tesco's,
uh,
Sainsbury's, they've been doing it for 25, 30 years,
grocers do it
but
really well, and then also we did it in the design as well. But what you don't have
yeah,
is the ability to connect emotionally. You basically
yeah,
just
absolutely.
drop it in a
Yeah,
product, right?
yeah,
Whereas if you understand the motivations of your audiences and why they connect with you or subscribe to you as a brand, you can then start to tailor content in a way that pushes their buttons. And I'll probably just
yeah,
talk to his own example briefly. Like, um, if the AI predicted that you're most likely to be interested in a water polo game, but you don't actually watch water polo regularly, could it just dial up the fact that this is the final and Italy have won 7 times and get you excited about watching that event, right? And so that's the difference, I think. So it's absolutely about ensuring anyone's listening to this. If you're technically focused person, focus in on AI, focus in on prompt engineering. Don't resist it, lean into it. And if you're a strategist, you're going to be in a good place, right? Because if you understand what you're trying to achieve at each life stage, and what works and what doesn't, then you're going to have a better outcome from your programs.
yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, look, we're probably getting towards the end of our time a little bit. So tell us, I think you had one more topic to discuss, which the final use of AI in terms of customer service and chatbots, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, this is an interesting thing. I presented on this recently in Dubai, and I was speaking with somebody from Aer Lingus about this subject, and somebody in the audience from Air France actually said that for their customers, over 50% prefer a chatbot.
That's
So
that's fantastic, isn't it?
it's coming, isn't it? It's starting to happen. I mean, it's not for me. I prefer to speak to an actual person, but
Yeah.
it's the chatbots are getting to the point where people are more accepting of them, I think.
100%. Yeah, as sophistication increases, I think, probably 12, 18, even 24 months ago, if when you started a chatbot journey, you just you felt some resistance. You immediately wanted to get to that human, was waiting beyond all of the automated FAQ.
Yeah,
But they're getting much more sophisticated, right? And they're starting to understand intent in a much more detailed and rich way, and be able to respond to kind of multiple intents, as well as to integrate into your enterprise's own language. And I think, if you think about what I was saying before, if you think about moments of truth being critical, and you think about how different sub cohorts will have a different propensity to either be retained or churn at different moments of truth, um, then how you respond to those different moments of truth via incentivization or gifting or trying to delight or just resolving the problem slightly differently than you would, in a standard way. That's very difficult to train to a group of humans when you're getting into thousands, hundreds, potentially thousands of cohorts of customers with different motivations and different rules associated to them. So
mm,
you can really easily see a future where, once you've got an understanding of the intent, the language, and it's matched into your enterprise, that you'll be able to drive much richer outcomes from your support organization in terms of
yeah,
satisfying those really high value customers, and potentially even driving growth out of the back of them. And there's an emerging trend in AI focused sales agents as well, right? So,
yeah,
and in retention, my experience has taught me that retention is not a siloed function. It's not the responsibility of marketing. Like brand and acquisition are very clear cut, right? They sit with those teams, CMOs accountable. That's it. Retention is the result of all interactions that a customer has with a
yeah,
brand. Often it sits in marketing because it sits under the CMO, the retention marketing, CRM marketing teams in that function. But you can find in some organizations that it's not very connected in terms of how you serve those high value customers or support them. But in a world where we have predictive AI, generative AI, AI within chatbots, all connected and focused around moments of truth, and focused around growing revenue from that mid cohort, and protecting revenue from that highest value cohort, you can see a world where organizations can be quite simply integrated around and focused around the customer.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right on that on that fact. I think AI is going to support that kind of gathering and prioritization of information for the customer-facing people. But also, if the AI chatbots can answer some of the more mundane queries, it frees up the actual people to really engage, solve some of the bigger problems, and really engage people in a much more personalized way. Yeah,
100%.
that's fantastic. I think we've covered a lot there. We've talked about how subscription provides convenience and access and value. We've talked about your moments of truth, which are so true. If your retention solutions can identify those moments of truth and you can build on that, you will not only retain but grow all your customers. I think it's absolutely right what you're saying on that point. And AI has got so much capability. I was really interested to hear you talk about automated CLV measurement. That was fascinating. I'd never thought about it quite in that way before, where it's the AI is used to measure that and trigger based on those kind of specific moments. And then, we generative AI, you can't talk about anything in the future without mentioning generative AI. And that really is all about focusing, right? It's all about understanding those behaviors and triggering against it. And then finally, the AI use of AI for the chatbots. And again, you bring up something that I'd not really thought about in quite that way, but that kind of maximization of the sales opportunity, not just kind of taking the away the mundane tasks and freeing up the customer service people for more complex tasks, but actually identifying ways to cross sell and upsell through those interactions. The
100%.
AI could be very, very clever for that. So
Exactly.
thank you.
It's the predictive AI like that will drive an understanding of when a
Yeah,
prospect should go straight to a salesperson for a conversation, whether should go into a nurturing journey,
yeah,
and then it will become a kind of going to a support chat, and that'll become then a self-fulfilling journey as it learns and learns and learns. And it's
yeah,
we are on the cusp of something amazing. There's a lot of attention on AI, but the way it's going to transform, I think the retention landscape in the next 5 years is going to be profound. Really,
yeah. So we need to be ready, right?
we have to be ready. Yeah, we need to be
Yeah.
aware, lean in, because it's not going away.
No, absolutely. Well, on that note, we are going to go away. But thank you so much, Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you very much.
Delighted to be on, Tom. Really, thank you again for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you again very soon.